Come a little closer and lend me your ears. Don't worry, you keep yours while I keep mine.
In each episode, we'll dig into the major stories, uncover the truth, and retrieve gems from Yada's blog.
We'll discuss what's right, bark about what's wrong, wag our tails at the thrill of discovery, and take you on adventures through the exciting world we live in today.
So, fasten your curiosity leash and get ready.
Right then, coming to you with another episode of the Yada's Vlog on a Blog. Tomorrow's news, disseminated today. Let's dive in.
And we got the bark coming in.
Oh, goodness. I still love that. John Boyd did that, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
That was a spectacular bit of artistry. I am hopeful that he produces many more of those. It's such a lovely way to begin a news, even if the news is not all that good. And we do have an addition here to our vlog on the blog, and this what is the nature of this program. A vlog, of course, is a video narrative, and a blog is a photographic presentation with commentary, and we're blending them together. Bringing the best of both worlds to talk a little bit about tomorrow's news today. And the first item there, Captain Kirk, is a picture. I don't know if you're able to see all this, but I hope you can, of Rahab. Rahab is the name that the prophets have applied to the corporeal manifestation of Satan during the last days. And this man with the blue tie there, that is Rahab. And we have proven him to be such. Christians would know him as the Antichrist, but what Christians don't know is that there was no Christ. But besides that small little anomaly and their get along, this is the great betrayer of Israel and of the world, and is literally demon possessed. And in his case, he is Satan possessed. It is Satan that has control of him. He makes this comment here, Kevin, that he is finding it difficult to find someone in Iran that he can negotiate his victory with. You know, he wants to end the war because the war is devastating in all respects for America. Of course, he said the war has already been won, but then he went to Congress, who he didn't bother to ask to go fight the war. Now he's begging Congress for $200 billion to continue the war that he said he's already won, that he didn't bother to get Congress to approve, which is a pretty difficult spot to be in. But this particular picture, the reason I want to talk about it is he is complaining that he has no one to negotiate a settlement with, a disengagement, a ceasefire, a way out with, because, well, he went and killed them all.
They're all dead, yeah.
They're all dead. You know, there's a reason, even in World War II, as much as we hated many of the dastardly leaders, we didn't go off and kill them because ultimately you need somebody that you can negotiate the end of the war with. And we don't have anyone. And the Ayatollah outsmarted everybody when he put in place what's called the dead hand, which he wrote a letter. It says, I'm going to set myself up as a martyr. They're going to kill me. And when they kill me, these are your orders. You just continue. Every independent aspect of our defense goes eye for an eye. If they attack this, you attack similar in the Gulf states, Israel, and the United States. And there is no stopping. You continue to fight until such time as the Americans and Israelis retreat, and that there is no ability for them to continue. So this is the stupidity of the Trump administration. You go kill the people that you would have to negotiate with to get a ceasefire and to reset the problem that you made, and there's nobody to talk to. You might have thought about that on the way in, but they didn't. Very sad. When you go up to the top picture there, there's a picture of a guy that I used to like a lot, Scott Ritter. Scott Ritter, we're not going to play his clip here, but Scott Ritter, you go back 6 months ago, was one of the best informed, most articulate spokespeople on the situation in Ukraine. He was a weapons inspector in Iraq, so he's one of those people that either
looking for the
contributed to
WMD.
they lied that there were weapons of mass destruction, or he may have actually been a voice for sanity and said there's no such thing, and the message never got to Bush, or Bush decided to ignore it and killed a bunch of people as a result of an outright lie. But now he is an expert. He is about 5 months ago, he went and had a long trip in Russia, and he came back as a bit of a zealot. I mean, I am exceedingly anti-Ukraine, and I have no love for Putin. I realize that Putin still is the most knowledgeable, most honorable spokesperson in terms of a world leader today, and that the war against Russia, as he knows, and he will absolutely articulate, as does everybody of any intelligence, that it's a proxy war that was started by the United States 20 years ago, and that it was done for the same reason that we are in Iran, which is the oligarchs in America want to carve up the world so they can digest, and they really want the wealth of the raw materials in Russia. And they despise the idea that Putin managed to pull Russia together and to make it a viable, independent state with very happy people. And so they'll do everything to disparage him, pretend to be negotiating with him, and then use their proxies to kill Russians, as they are in the Ukraine. And he knows this, and that's good. So what he's talking about now is in Israel. Going back to the last Israeli-Iran war, and now in this one, I've been on record for several years saying that while it is absolutely true that there would have been no reason for Iran to enrich uranium to 60% fissile purity, and the amount that they have and face the sanctions they've had, if they weren't intent on building a bomb. So I don't care what you want to say as a talking head, and all these talking heads he included say that Iran had no intention to build a bomb. Well, that's nonsense, because there would be no reason to enrich uranium to 60%. If you want to make a nuclear reactor and generate power, you between 2 and 4%. 3.5% is the norm. You never go above 10%, much less 60%, and 60% gets you within a week or two most of the fissile purity, which is about 87% for a nuclear bomb. So there is 0% possibility they would have jeopardized their economy, their standing, their isolation to take 490 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium-235 if they weren't intent on building a bomb. And my guess is they have already built them, because there would have been zero incentive for them not to after the last bombing of Iran. And it was too easy for them to do so. They already have the nuclear missile technology to deliver them, and they clearly have the uranium, and it was not obliterated, as Trump said. What I want to talk about is just Ritter's comments here, that he explains that Iran is defeating Israel right now. Everybody that I listen to, and I think of a pretty good menu of experts that are, very plugged in, exceedingly well schooled on these issues. Now, Ritter is a bit of a propagandist, and every single one of them, by the way, now is anti-Israel. I can't find a single intelligence spokesperson that is knowledgeable on these subjects that doesn't despise Netanyahu in particular, but also the leadership of Israel. And of course, we live for Israel. I will die for Israel. We will all give everything we have to save Israel, but we're also opposed to Netanyahu. I can't say we, I say I am vehemently opposed to Benjamin Netanyahu and to the leadership of Israel. I think what they have done is suicidal. So I think that, yes, it is inevitable that Israel will face horrid consequences, appalling devastation, as a result of its continued actions against Iran. And this time, Iran is not going to agree to a ceasefire. They're going to continue to pound Israel until Israel is devastated. And they now know that their cluster bomb munitions are not salvageable by the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome and the Arrow and the THAAD and the like, they will not. They're not effective against those cluster munitions, and so they are just having to allow them to fall. One made a direct hit on the Haifa refinery just a couple of days ago.
And they're not hitting hardened targets, so they're still effective. Yeah,
they are. That's right. They'll take out airports and hangars and airplanes and refineries and all of these kinds of things. And they're, of course, be devastating in a civilian area. Because of the fact that in a war between missile and interceptor, the missile always wins, even if the interceptor hits its target, because of two factors. One is the difference in cost. The interceptor is anywhere from 5 to 100 times more expensive than the missile, and particularly when the missile or the projectile is a drone. And the second factor is that it takes a year's production of interceptors would maybe last 1 week in Israel. So the lead time to make interceptors is so long, and it's so short, relatively short. It's about 100 to 1 in the amount of time necessary to make a drone or missile versus an interceptor. Mm-hmm. That you are absolutely going to run out of missiles before the foe runs out of run out of interceptors before the foe runs out of missiles. So this is a war that Israel cannot win on that basis. And then it goes one step further, that Iran is 30 plus times the size of Israel and land mass.
Right.
And it is 2 nations away from Israel, which means there is a 0% possibility that the Israelis can put boots on the ground. They can't get there because they can't go through Syria and Iraq. And then even in Iran, the territory is too hostile to a mechanized advance, and there's no way to resupply troops. They would die. It would be a suicide mission. Same thing's true for the United States. The United States can't invade Iran. They may be able to occupy an island, but even at great consequence, right, with very little benefit. So without boots on the ground, you're not taking over a country. And so with the disparate population, 7.5 million Jews in Israel versus 90 plus million people in Iran, there is no way for Israel to prevail. Israel cannot. Even if Israel were to decide that it was going to use its nuclear arsenal, and say they had 100 nuclear bombs of the size they have, Iran's too large. Mm-hmm. First of all, the world would nuke Israel, yes. So the retaliation would be the end of the Jewish state. But there is no scenario where Israel can win, and that's what we spoke against. So whether he is right in that Iran is defeating Israel right now or not, I don't know, because Israel has a total news embargo, which makes it very difficult to support Israel, to speak on Israel's behalf, because you have no information to go by. And when you don't have any information, then you make a fool if you speak in favor or against one side or another. And we do know that Iran is definitely and overwhelmingly defeating the United States. Mm-hmm. It's taken out most of the U.S. bases in the Middle East, and it has taken out the Strait of Hormuz, which is devastatingly destructive to the petrodollar, which is holding up the U.S. economy, and it's having a devastating effect on world economies. And because of all the damage that has been done, we're going to go 6 months of exceedingly high gas and oil prices. Even if the supply if the strait is open tomorrow, you're going to go 6 months before supply is properly resumed, and it's going to be devastating for world economies. So the United States has already lost, and there is no way for America to prevail. And Trump pounds his chest and say everybody's a coward for not joining the U.S. Pretty disgusting. But anyway, I just wanted to comment on that. That we can go back down. That Scott Ritter is inevitably that is the case. There is no scenario where it works the other way, and right. It was so obvious that you have to wonder, why did Netanyahu decide to do this?
I went to town yesterday to get some chicken feed. Diesel is $4.53, and normally, just the other day it was $3.09. So something is amiss. These are 2008, 2009 prices during the housing crisis, yeah. And everything. It's crazy.
Yeah, well,
Kevin,
that's just the beginning of it. Yes.
Kevin, $6.95.
Well,
$6.95.
that's California prices.
So
Well, I
it's
know.
$7 in California. $7 a gallon in California. Yeah. I mean, that's just devastating for an economy. It's just devastating because it's not just the price to fill up a car, so you're not going to go anywhere. But the bigger issue is the supply will become so lean that we will have long lines again, and the devastating toll that takes on economics. But food prices will go up again because they're delivered by truck. Airline tickets will soar, and just everything bad happens as part of this. This next picture here is Trump blacks NATO's for being cowards. Now, this is Private Bone Spur that is making that statement.
Right.
What, 6 deferments for a lie of having a bone spur in his foot. Now, that's a coward.
Yeah. And Barron's too tall. Barron's too tall to serve. So, yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, this is Private Bone Spur wants to call Europeans cowards for not engaging in a suicide mission that America won't even participate in. America won't even escort ships out of the Gulf of Hormuz. You know, if Private Bone Spur thinks that you need to show some guts to take an oil tanker out, then, you know, what he should do, he's got plenty of money now that he has been bribed. I think the Trump and family have picked up $200 billion in the last year in bribes. So he's got $200 billion to buy a lot of oil tankers. He should just go buy the fleet. Buy the fleet. He can self-insure. And I think he should take the helm as the brave man that he is. And let's just see, Private Bone Spur. We'll call him Captain Bone Spur if he does it. He can become the next, shipping magnate. And
2 ships, he becomes an admiral, right?
Yeah.
2 ships, he becomes an admiral.
Admiral Bone Spur can go and buy the oil tankers, and he can lead in the lead oil tanker, and he can break the blockade. Let's just see him do that as opposed to shoot off that foul mouth of his.
Didn't we get a bunch of tankers from Venezuela here recently? Weren't we picking them up all over the place?
Why not take those? Come on. Admiral Bone Spur. You know, man up. Yeah. You know what? When he asked China to help him, now China, their ally is Iran. And can you imagine Z when Trump said, "I want you to help me break this blockade"? Like, I mean, what's he going to say? Are you out of your ever-loving mind?
Right.
Yeah. He told Japan and North Korea or South Korea, said, "Are you crazy?" And then he said, "Well, what about the UK and France?" And before UK and France could even answer, which both said no, Merz of Germany says, "Hell no." Yeah. And then he says, we do so much for NATO, and NATO doesn't do anything for us. We're always there for NATO, and NATO is never there for us. This man is a total and complete confabulary. He's literally out of his mind, which tells you that if you're one of those 38% of Americans that are MAGA, you suffer from a mental disease. You should be institutionalized.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's both sides. They joked, liberalism is a mental disorder. Yeah, MAGAism is a mental disorder.
Yeah, this is an amazing story. Netanyahu, I mean, I despise the man because he is the devil's apprentice. He is Satan's little helper. And if Israel does not do something to get rid of him, silence him now and take him, remove him from power, then there's just going to be very little of Israel for us to pick up when we return. So they need to get rid of that man now. Now, he was off trying to make it sound like his the vassal to whom he serves, Rahab, Satan, was engaged in a noble cause. So he decided to pretend like he was erudite. And he said, I've read most of the books by Will Durant. You may be, in fact, both of you guys are probably old enough to know who Will Durant is. Kirk, particularly, you probably have a set of his books. You know who Will Durant is?
Once upon a time, I think yeah. Well, he was like, it was like all the commentary, all the guys like William F. Buckley, the whole crowd.
No, Will Durant is the guy that wrote Story of Civilization. I did read his books. Unfortunately, he has a bias that I would have a tough time with now. But he was a really a very forthright historian. I thought he did a really nice job of presenting history. And so Netanyahu wants to pretend like he's erudite, but Will Durant is not who you quote. Will Durant is kind of the common man's historian. He is not a scholarly historian by any means. And so Will Durant does have some really effective quotes, but Netanyahu decided the one that he's going to quote is that Will Durant spoke of a comparison between Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan was one of the world's great conquerors, great in the sense that he was an astounding leader of men, motivator of men. And at one time, he amassed one of the largest empires, probably in the top 1, 2, or 3 empires in the history of the world, and fabulously rich. And as a result of that, he was a Mongolian. And his son Kublai Khan even advanced beyond what he had achieved. What people don't know about Genghis Khan is that he was actually more religious, had a more religious text. He created his own religion to advance his militant cause than did Muhammad. Genghis Khan was a vastly better writer, more articulate, and vastly more, a million times more successful than Muhammad. But Genghis Khan was ruthless. Absolutely ruthless. And so the message that Will Durant led is conveyed was that, and Netanyahu quoted him. I don't have it from memory, but the message in essence was that when you compare Jesus Christ, who we know never existed, he's just nothing but a myth, to Genghis Khan, what we learn is that if people are sufficiently ruthless, which Khan's hordes were, that good will not triumph over evil. Evil will triumph over good when evil is particularly motivated to prevail. And so he was trying to convey that Rahab, Satan, in Donald Trump, was the Jesus character trying to stamp out the great evil that is Iran. That they were the Genghis Khan character in this play. And Christians went apeshit, saying, oh, they blaspheme the name of Jesus, and you blaspheme the name of Jesus, it's holy hell on you. Not even smart enough to know that Genghis Khan was actually an extraordinary man, and that Jesus Christ never existed. But all he's doing is he's quoting a historian, and people are having a conniption fit over it. First of all, it was a dumb quote. It was misapplied, and it doesn't hold true because Jesus never existed. But nonetheless, I just see just how unbelievably stupid Christians are and hateful they are in this regard. So they think that Netanyahu is a blasphemer because of his comparison between Jesus and Genghis Khan.
Of all the things to be upset with Netanyahu about, that's probably at the bottom of my list.
Except for just the stupidity of of advancing the quote. He's quoting Genghis. He's quoting Will Durant, but he's misapplying the whole thing. So it's amazing. So in this particular case, this is a fellow. Can you go up just a little higher? Go. Maybe it's down, so I can just see what is written here. I listened to a bit of this. So what he'll say again is that Zionism, he has Jesus, he's a Jesus freak on his shirt. And he says, I'll say it again, Zionism is a cult. By the way, who authored the term Zion? Yahweh. Oh, Yahweh. Oh, so Yahweh's a cultist. Yeah. So he's not bright enough to know that Zion is from Yahweh. Yahweh authored the term. And not bright enough to know that Zion means signs posted along the way, and they're posted on the ridgeline of Moriah. And if you don't read them and know what's on those signs, you have zero chance of salvation, none. You either read those signs and follow them from Dowd's home to Yahweh's home, or you are going to be among those who are scorched. And he says, so Zionism occults, and it has no place in the church. He doesn't also know that there's no mention of a church anywhere in the New Testament.
Yeah.
That's a shock for most people. The word church does not appear anywhere in the New Testament. Not even an approximation of the word church.
Right. You
Every
can
time
tell
you
folks
read
do not
church,
read their own source documents.
Right. They do not read their own search documents. They believe nonsense because they've been spoon-fed nonsense.
Yeah.
Their text actually reads Ecclesia. Ecclesia either needs to be transliterated as you have an ecclesia, or it has to be translated. And translated, it can't be translated to church. It can be translated to called out. Ek means out, and ecclesia means called. And so there is no basis for church. In fact, the only word at the time that had a sound similar to church was Church. And she was the goddess of the Germanic religion, where she was the daughter of the Helios. Of Helios, the sun god. So they've named their institution after a sun goddess. But there is absolutely no church. And even in the New Testament, most certainly isn't a church. And Yahweh's Torah prophets, and Zion is Yahweh's term, which he's calling a cult. So when you're dealing with Christians, you're dealing with people who are just absolutely, hopelessly ignorant and irrational. Hopelessly ignorant and irrational. I mean, you couldn't save that man there. If you had 1,000 hours to try to reason with him, you would be better off speaking to a turnip.
Yeah, you can't. Back to the called out. That means no buildings. And so think of all the money that they would save if they didn't have all these buildings and stuff that they had to tithe for and pay for and everything, and their 501(c)(3)s.
Yeah, the actual definition is the antithesis of what he's of what church, because church is a building and an organization that people go into, and it actually the word means called out. And of course, it was written by a man who admitted he was demon possessed.
Right.
Israel's biggest weapons factory is destroyed. Now, the reason I poke this is, you see the Sean Hannity over there? I know Sean Hannity. He's been on my airplanes back in the time that I owned airplanes, and I was pretty well connected. Sean Hannity, I used to fly on. I used to provide transport between various meetings for Sean. But that's AI Sean.
Yeah.
Most of the AI, most of the influencers now aren't even doing what we're doing.
Right.
Not AI. I don't know about you guys, but nope. Well, you can pull on the beard. Yeah. Fingers. That's the Netanyahu. Look at my fingers. That's AI Hannity, not a real Hannity. I mean, we have gone to a position now where news isn't news. There's just no correlation. He's got a picture there of these 5 missiles impacting, and of course the explosions are before the missiles even impact. But they got a nice little jet thing going behind them, as if a ballistic missile is still firing when it goes down. You know, it's called a ballistic missile because the rocket fires on the way up. It's gravity that brings it down. So your AI is stupid. That's not the way they look. The explosion happens after they hit, not before they hit. That's not what Iran is using on Israel these days. They're using the cluster versions, and that's not what they look like. And so you had to create a false factory and false missiles and an AI version of yourself. And these idiots want to claim that the mainstream networks are fake news.
Right. That is their fake news. Wow. We don't even need talent anymore. We don't even need real flesh. We can just rehash the old ones, right? Cronkite, Rather, they can all come back and be AI.
It all depends on who you're working for.
Yeah.
Yahweh likes flaws, and we work perfect because he likes flawed people. He likes real characters, and so you can't do the Hannity and work for Yahweh. If you're going to work for Yahweh, you got flaws. You have speech impediments. You'll be tongue-tied at times. You'll make some mistakes. That's what he wants, so that you then can demonstrate that you're able to learn from it, correct a mistake, move on from there. That God made a decision a very long time ago that he would not talk directly to people for lots of reasons. He doesn't like people very much. People are really jerks, particularly his people. I mean, his people told him to shut up and go away. They never wanted to hear from him or see him again. And that was, that was the first few days of the Exodus. So, he was saving them, and they told him to shut up and go away. So, bellyache throughout the entire process. They didn't even get out of Egypt before they were belly aching. And so, God made the decision that he was not going to speak directly to us. He was going to convey everything he had to say through people of his election. And so he has chosen people, not a lot of them, not a lot of people he could trust, but he's chosen people he could trust. And all of those people have ups and downs and character flaws. They're all real. All have a lot in common. And you look at his favorite person, Dowd. I mean, that boy, he had some real issues. And yet he's also got great intelligence and tremendous devotion. He has so many attributes and skills that Yahweh also loves. I don't know if you guys have noticed, and it's something we'll cover in one of the shows here, but I came to the conclusion for a number of reasons that the soul that Yahweh breathed into the first man conceived in his image was Dowd. And I came to that conclusion because of the fact that God refers to him very early on as his firstborn, and he calls him his Bakor, his firstborn, long before Dowd did anything that would justify that. And so it became obvious that there's only one person that God could say, he is my firstborn, and that'd be the first man that Yahweh created himself in his image, no other mother and father, and that he actually said, I breathed into him his nephesh soul and his nasama, his conscience and consciousness. And so there's only one person that could qualify for Yahweh to be honest about being Bakor, his firstborn son. So it was my conclusion that this had to be Dowd. I actually came to the conclusion earlier when I saw Dowd become a bit lazy, sleeping during the day, a bit unaware of what's going on around him, a bit defiant and willing to blame others for the mistakes he had made. When I saw Adam do all those same things, and then we read about Dowd doing those same things, I said, boy, there's a lot of personality here that's the same. And yet at moments, Adam was really articulate and engaged. So he swings both ways. And I said, boy, that sounds like a lot like Dowd. I was doing a program yesterday, came directly across it. God says, Dowd is Adam. Pure and simple. First thing he says about Dowd, he is, before he says anything about him, the first thing he says about Dowd is that he is all things pertaining to my man, my Adam. It's Adoni, Adami. So Adam followed by on, which in Hebrew, Shabbaton, for example. Anything with the on ending in Hebrew, Zacharon, would mean all things pertaining to, like, for example, Zacharon, a memorable man, or Shabbaton, all things pertaining to the Shabbat. So Adam on, is how it's written, would mean all things pertaining to Adam. And then the yod at the end of it, when the yod follows a word, it makes it possessive of the one speaking. It is my Adam, my man, and all things pertaining to my man Adam, and he says that's Dowd.
Yeah, pretty clear.
Yahweh say, yeah, you're right. That's exactly the story, and prove it. And now, once you have absolute proof that you were right, that Adam is Dowd, then you know that many souls were recycled, because we know for certain that Dowd has already been here 3 times. And he's coming back for a 4th. And I think overall it's 6. But once you know that Dowd is being deployed 4 times for certain on Yahweh's testimony, as Adam, the first man, as Dowd here as the king of Israel in year 3000 just shy of it, as the Passover lamb who came in 33 CE to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim, and was the returning king. So we know for certain that Dowd's going to be here 4 times. Now, at that point, all of those numbskulls out there are saying, no, everybody's got to die once and only get one life. And no, you can't, that doesn't work. I don't like that. Must be reincarnation. Don't like reincarnation. No, it's not reincarnation. It's a religious concept. It's the deployment of a soul and the redeployment of a soul. Souls are outside the physical realm. It is exceedingly easy for God to redeploy a soul. What do you think he's doing in Elia? Huh?
Right.
And he's on record saying, there's 4 times with Dowd, 3 have already happened, one coming forward. So God can clearly do it. And it isn't difficult. So he uses the souls that he likes to work with to do the really tough jobs. He doesn't leave it to numbskulls. Well, they may be numbskulls, but they're his numbskulls. He has numbskulls he likes to work with, myself included. I'm going to have 8 by the time we're done. But once you know that for certain, and you can prove it, that we knew that Dowd had 3, and now we know he has 4, and they go all the way back from the beginning, it would be certain that there's others, and we know Elia happens to be one of them.
Yeah.
And we know that the Amma that saves Dowd happens to be one of them, as does her husband. And so I managed to figure out each of them, and it's a really interesting story. So
something I found interesting that Adoni or Adomi, that word is only used twice in Torah. Once to talk about Dowd being red and ruddy, and the other guy that they describe as red and ruddy, Esau. It's the only 2 times that it's used. And so I was like,
wow. Yes, and interesting, it doesn't mean rud and ready for Dowd. He was not a redhead and he wasn't ruddy. It means that Dowd was Adam. Adam was Dowd. That's what it means. And when it comes to Esau, Esau is an interesting character because he deserved that birthright. It was his. He was cheated out of the birthright by his own mother. Right. She deceived his father, her husband, for the birthright. And it's been a fractured family ever since. And so Yahweh uses that because he comes full circle in every story. The man that caused the fall of man is the man that causes man to be able to stand up again. He comes full circle in every story. And so what he is saying with Esau is that there is a people named after Esau, Edom. And so who was the one that relocated the Ark of the Covenant for Dowd? And
the Obed-Edom,
right? Obed-Edom. And you know what that name means? He works for man. That's what Obed-Edom means. He works for man. And according to Yashaya, Obed-Edom comes back as the man from Edom, coming out of that same wine vat. Both stories that saves the world.
Yeah.
So God's going to solve the fractured family through a man representing Edom and Esau and solve that whole problem. It's marvelous the way that he goes through. But I'm glad you did that check to see if the word was used elsewhere, and it is, and it's used of everything in Yahweh's story. Ultimately, I know this. It sounds crazy, but it's true. Everything in Yahweh's story comes down to 2 fellows, the 2 fellows that are described in Genesis 1, the greater and lesser luminary. And even the lesser luminary actually means that he is younger than the first luminary, and he is by 600 years. And he is the 6th generation and 600 years younger. But Esau is ultimately the one that solves the problem in the end. He comes up with the solution to rectify the family before the family reunion when God returns with Dowd. So God's a great storyteller.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I bet you didn't know that an aircraft carrier. But thank you for doing that research. I like it when things I say are checked, just because you can't do everything all the time when you're trying to pursue something like this, and it's nice to have those checks. And so you find something that doesn't check out, then you got to figure out why did that not work. And so here's the Abraham Lincoln and a dry dock. Are you aware of a dry dock out there and outside of the Persian Gulf? Are any dry docks out there? No, particularly one for an aircraft carrier of that size. In fact,
I didn't know they had. Yeah.
No. Did you know that most people don't know, but the Gerald Ford, which is our really newest, bestest weapon of war, that it was delayed for a long time Well, because it was playing pirate. You know, it had the Jolly Roger on there, and it was capturing oil tankers and stealing them. So it was playing pirate with the Jolly Roger. And then after a full tour of duty of playing pirate, join the Navy, be a pirate. You know, what the heck? They decided, well, better late than never. We'll even though these people are all dying to get home and they've served their term, and I don't think most people have any idea how horrible life is on an aircraft carrier. Most of the people, 5,000 crew, 4,000 of them never see daylight. Living inside that is a really, really, really awful duty. And according to people that I know well in the upper echelon of the Navy always assigns their very worst people to it because there's so many on them. You know, you can't put the worst people on a submarine because there's too few of them. They drive each other crazy. It's the worst of the Navy that goes on an aircraft carrier. And the life on that is just miserable for them. And of course, it was delayed because their crappers didn't work. There was shit flowing up and down the hallways because the toilets haven't worked on the Gerald Ford since it was made. They came up with this really fancy toilet and they do everything but flush poop. But and
got one job.
They got one job for flush poop and they can't do it.
It is gravity, man. Come on.
Yes, and they can't do it. So they finally get on scene, and the moment they get on scene, I'm not even sure they got on scene yet. They may have been a week, 2 or 3 days away. They get close to on scene, and the laundry goes. They get a laundry fire, and the laundry fire is so bad, and they have so little ability to put out a laundry fire. Now, can you imagine when things shot at, and they were trying to put out a real fire, like a fuel fire or a fire in the munitions bay? Well, they couldn't put out a laundry fire, and it burned for like 4 or 5 days. And the ship's heading back now, going back to the Mediterranean. Well, that's the Ford that is brought out of duty, but it isn't because a missile hit it. It's because, well, the crappers didn't work and the laundry
laundry caught on fire.
Yeah, laundry caught on fire. No, the Abraham Lincoln is still sort of on duty. The Abraham Lincoln is pulled so far away that its airplanes can't really be effective in this fight at all because it's afraid of the Iranian missiles. But it isn't in dry dock. It has not been destroyed. But that's the problem with AI. AI has literally ruined X and Facebook. 80% of the posts are AI and they're untrue. And so what is the value of a social media platform where 80% of what you see is false?
Yeah.
And then the platform will actually penalize the person that says, oh, by the way, that's false. Right. They'll silence the voice that says, no, that's false, because they'll say, oh, you were promoting a lie. No, why don't you read my comment? I'm saying you should have stopped this. Shouldn't be allowed. Oh, wow. This guy, I mean, he's an alcoholic. He is a white supremacist.
Right.
He is a crazy Jesus freak. He is everything insane. His competency was he was a lousy news conference talk show host, news commentator prior to getting this gig, and he's made news reporters sign a loyalty oath and sign oaths on getting their stories pre-approved before publishing them, of which 80% of journalists says, no, we're not doing that, and walked out and don't even cover the Pentagon anymore. So he's down to very few, and they're lashing out. They can't get good coverage of a failed war. So he blocked the Pentagon's own newspaper from covering his press conference. You just can't make up this stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, he did. He blocked the Defense Department's own newspaper from covering his press conference.
Is that the Stars and Stripes? I don't. Is that what they call it?
But I'm not sure that's the one. It's of course, Stars and Stripes is the most famous of the Pentagon's newspapers. I'm not sure which one.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, this is really interesting. CBS. I've known this. I've been talking about it now for 3 months. Because I knew the journalists, met them and broken bread with them on CBS Tony Award winning journalist. CBS is firing all of its lead journalists. The most famous journalists on CBS are all gone. And the reason they're firing them is that Larry Ellison now owns CBS. And Larry Ellison is among the tainted oligarchs. He, Musk, Zuckerberg, the Page and Google cadre of characters, and Bezos of Amazon are a few. The Plantar CEO, what's his name? But anyway, the oligarchs are. Yeah, in fact, he's in Italy now doing a conference on the Antichrist.
Right. Just have to go to Italy for that.
Yeah. So what he's doing is they are all getting sweetheart deals from the government because Trump is great at bribing people. It's the old mafia thing. We can do this the easier way or the hard way. You can make money with us, so you can share in our graft if you capitulate in our criminal enterprise, or we'll snuff you out if you don't. And that's what he's done with all of these tech oligarchs. He had this big meeting with them in the Rose Garden not long ago, and they were the ones that were compelled to fund his vanity project of the ballroom for the White House, which is going along swimmingly, as you can tell. So what CBS is doing is becoming, to capitulate to Trump, they're becoming Fox 2. They're going to be just like Fox. And I don't know if you guys watch news at all. I went from the point of where I would read 20 newspapers a day and pick up some of the on-air news. I prefer newspapers because you can read 7 times faster than you can listen. But what I realized that both the printed and the spoken press, the media, that they were wrong about the details of stories and the angles of stories about half the time. But there was an effort to be right. They just didn't know enough to be right, and their judgment wasn't good enough to be right. And of course, they were biased for their various issues. Yes. And then Fox came along, and it fair and balanced, and they became the opposite of that. They were not fair, and they were not balanced, and they were just the opposite voice of CNN. So you had, a liberal lie on one side and a conservative lie on the other, and the truth isn't necessarily in between. They were just both lying. Then we had social media, which was this, the people get to bring the news, so you can amalgamate things. And then, and there was some validity to that until AI. And now with the integration of AI, there is no value whatsoever to social media. It is, it's wrong 90 to 95% of the time. So the filter now is so high on what is legitimate and not legitimate on social media. It's become an utter waste of time. But anyway, what Ellison is doing, and he owns CBS, he's the one that got the sweetheart deal, part of the deal. I'll let you buy TikTok on the cheap from the Chinese that we have told that have to sell it. But you're going to get, I want favorable coverage and CBS. So I want you to fire all the liberals and replace them with MAGA. And that's what's happening at CBS.
Yeah, FCC and SEC are some serious tools to be used against the guys with money. I mean, because you can't do anything without them. It is one strike with the FCC and everything is gone. And
that's the way, by the way, that I looked at it. And what you said is absolutely true. And that's the way I looked at it. I don't look at it that way anymore. And the reason is that I think, I don't want to verge on conspiracy here, but it's hard not to. It doesn't really matter if you have a liberal or a conservative president in the White House or a liberal or conservative Congress. America has been self-destructive now for 50 years. And whether it's the CIA that is running things and they say you either play our way or we will kill you, which they're very good at, or it's America really did have an oligarch class. And when evil condemns people, like started to condemn Russia and pirated the vessels, airplanes, and properties of what they called the oligarchs in Russia. And by the way, it was the oligarchs in Russia that were able to keep that country functioning when it made the transition from communism to free enterprise. So while there are some nasty dudes, I'm sure, in that group, without them, the country never would have made that transition. So when America lashes out at a group of people, it means that they are projecting that they have that group of people, and they're trying to help them by focusing attention on others, falsely forecasting it, like, condemning Putin for the war America started using Ukraine as proxy. America has oligarchs.
Oh, yeah.
And now we know their names. They're people like Musk and Zuckerberg and Bezos and Larry Page and Larry Ellison are all examples of that. And what you can see is they're all in league now with Trump. And they're getting filthy rich. I mean, Trump has now, best estimates now are $200 billion that he and his family have picked up during the first year of this term. So they're all getting filthy rich. And what America is doing worldwide is all because the oligarchs want more and more. And they realize that America is failing. And the only way now for America to remain the hegemon that they need it to be and have the reserve currency so they could have the profits is they need to devour other countries and have their wealth. Venezuela, Greenland, Russia, China, Iran, Libya. Am I ringing a bell anywhere here that says they all have the same thing in common? It is the oligarchs that want these things to slice them up for their own enrichment, as if 100, 200, 300 billion wasn't enough. So I don't think it's now just a matter of he has these tools to wield against them, which he does. And he has wielded them in the past. But I think the primary shaker and movers are that these are the people that are the actual government, that it doesn't matter who you vote for. It's all a charade.
Right.
This is the power behind America isn't so much a deep state, is that it's owned. And, if you want to go back, you know why we engaged in World War I, or Captain Kirk?
Well, let's see.
For a single man. We engaged in World War I for a single man. Who was that man?
Archduke Ferdinand?
JP Morgan.
Oh, JP Morgan?
Yeah, the reason we engaged in World War I was to bail out JP Morgan. JP Morgan negotiated an exclusive position as the bank for England as it was getting pummeled and beginning to lose the war. And he signed a contract to be the exclusive arms supplier to England. And as the Germans were prevailing, the English were going broke. And if you were the lone dude making money on every arms sale to Great Britain, and you're their banker, what happens when they can't pay their bills? JP Morgan goes poof.
Yeah, it's not like he gets England. He doesn't foreclose on England.
So the Churchill and Woodrow Wilson, Colonel House along with them, came up with a plan. They looked at history and said, I remember we sunk the Maine. That worked really well. General patriotism, you get Americans, they're going to be ready to go on to fight. We'll get something sunk with some people on it. We'll sink the Lusitania. Why don't we just use the Lusitania? We're using it right now to transport the arms that JP Morgan is shipping. Let's sink the Lusitania. How about that? So the Germans got word of that was the plan. They had spies. Their spies were doing their job. And they paid for ads in the nation's leading newspapers and said, don't ride on the Lusitania because it is now an enemy combatant. JP Morgan bought every one of the newspapers that those ads were placed in, save one. Every one of them save one. So the ads wouldn't be seen. And then he and his Colonel House and Woodrow Wilson, and Winston Churchill, specifically slowed the Lusitania down, sailed it right into the teeth of the German U-boats, and she was sunk deliberately. to get Americans to rally around. I'll go fight for America. Fight for America. I'm going to go into those trenches and fight for America. And Americans died to protect J.P. Morgan. This is what we do. This is what we have done. Why do you think that America engaged in the Vietnam War? Made a lot of people really rich, didn't it? And the whole argument for that war, it was a lie. The Gulf of Tonkin incident never occurred. And when McNamara had to report to Lyndon Johnson that it was a lie, that phone call is recorded. It's at the University of Virginia. Yeah, it's in the archive of the University of Virginia. And LBJ said, yeah, I knew it was a lie. He says, but if we admit now that it was a lie, then we will be voted out and impeached in disgrace. America's never going to forgive a president that loses a war, and we would have lost the war if we bail out now. And so at that point, about 5,000 Americans had died by the time that pulled out of the war, when almost 60,000 had died, all based on a lie because it was making a lot of people a lot of money. That's what we do. That's what's happening now.
Hughes Helicopter Company was making a fortune out in California. He even hired, I was going to say, he even hired the guy that used to be in the FBI so he'd have goods on all the congressmen so he'd keep voting as much as they could to sell this stuff. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, America is, the American government is disgusting, and it has been disgusting for a very long time. And if you're a patriot and you are political, you're just as big a fool as if you were religious. And if you're a MAGA today, then, well, you're a moron. Oh, this idiot. Good God, I hate this man. I don't know. Can you say hate on social media and get by with it? Well, I despise this man. He is David Barnea. Does October 7th ring a bell to you?
Yes.
Yeah. Who was the head of Mossad when October 7th happened and didn't bother to tell anybody that, oh, by the way, we actually have the plan. I have the full brochure on Alaska flood. We've had it for 3 months. And by the way, we have the video of them practicing Alaska flood, but let's not tell anybody. Nah, but it'll be really fun if we go ahead and let it happen, kill a couple of thousand Israelis. We go blow up Gaza, then we can go fight and kill other people. Oh, we got this pager bomb thing we got all lined up. We'll go attack Iran a couple of times. Yeah, why would we want to actually protect our people? Oh, that was Barnea. He was head of the Mossad. If October 7th happens under your watch, the first thing you do is you submit your resignation that day if you're a man. This a-hole did not. And now you know what this a-hole did? He went and told Netanyahu in a briefing that, yeah, man, you do a decapitation strike in Iran and you'll get regime change. Let's go do it. Now, I recall telling everybody long before the first one happened or the second one happened, or even when we were witnessing the paltry little uprisings in Iran, that I've studied this stuff. I've studied for a long time. And I have been a commentator on uprisings around the world for 20 plus years. I said, so I know what it takes to have a successful uprising. And there is a 0% chance that the Iranians are going to have one. And that there was a 0% chance that in each of the 5 uprisings prior to that, when everybody was saying, oh, it's just done with the regime. I said, no, it's not. Not even close. And this last one was the most pathetic of it all. It was, you knew the Mossad and the CIA were arming it and promoting it as a pretext for war. And you knew that at most they had 1/10 to 0.2% of the population on their side. And to have a successful regime change that's internal, you need to have between 3 to 5% on your side, and only works then if you are more ruthless than those you're opposing. You know, the Bolshevik Revolution, the brown shirts and the Nazis in Germany. You have to have between 3 and 5%, and they have to be vastly more ruthless than the government they're opposing. Same thing was true in Cuba. This is the nature of it, and they weren't. They were a fraction of that threshold number, and they weren't sufficiently ruthless, and they had nothing to rally around. Just saying we don't like those other guys isn't enough to cause it to happen. And then when you go ahead and kill the leaders of a country, you assassinate them, and you do it over and over and over again, and you bomb that country, and you kill thousands of civilians. They have a tendency not to like you very much.
Right.
And so what happened immediately after America and Israel started bombing Iran, rather than doing what this guy said was going to happen, that it would, oh boy, do a decapitation strike, we'll have regime change. No, you had millions of Iranians rallying around their government. Even if they didn't like their government, they liked their government a lot more than those people that were dropping bombs on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, death to America, death to Israel, business as usual.
So,
yeah.
Damn. So this idiot, what a disaster for Israel. Israel has the worst leadership of any country other than America. Well, I don't know. That's a rough crowd out there. I mean, you got Starmer, you got Macron, you got those two silly blondes and the European Union. You've got the Islamic regime running Iran. I mean, you've got some really idiots in the world, but it's close that Netanyahu, and of course, you've got Satan actually running the United States.
Right.
And his golfing buddy, Lindsey Graham, who is Satan Jr. But Netanyahu and David Barnea, yeah, it's pretty close. Israel will only survive them 7 years from now because Yahweh intervenes. And by that time, these idiots will be long dead. And there'll only be a fraction of Israel left.
Yeah.
Trump threatens Russia. Can you imagine being Vladimir Putin and saying, oh, Donald Trump's on the line. He says, oh, my God. Really? Right. Didn't I talk to him last week? Is it somebody else's turn? Please, got to be somebody else's turn. Because you know that you could never create a deal with Donald Trump that would be an unhonorable negotiation. As a matter of fact, the whole pretense of negotiation is as a pretext to war. The United States with Iran twice has used negotiation as a pretext to war. What it does is gives you plausible deniability. No, we were peacemakers. We wanted a diplomatic solution. They just wouldn't go along. In the case Iran called their bluff, said, okay, we'll get rid of all of our uranium. If that's your problem, we'll give it all away. And the next day, of course, they were bombed. Because you can't have
while they were getting together to talk about that. Yeah,
right. Negotiation wasn't the point. The negotiation was only as a pretext to war, and of course, that the whole negotiations in Ukraine are nothing but a pretext to more war. And so, there is nothing left for Trump to threaten Russia with, and to say that, hey, Russia, you're just being evil, bad Russia. You're helping Iran. How could you ever do that? Well, excuse me, but the United States is providing the guidance on all of the long-range missiles, and all of the targeting in Iran is provided by the CIA to kill Russians, and we're supplying the weapons to kill Russians on a war that America started, and now we're trying to destroy a very important ally of Russia. And the only reason that Iran is an ally of Russia, not only because of proximity, but because we isolated Russia from all others. So we put Russia in a position where they had to be an ally of Iran. And now we're complaining that Russia is an ally of Iran when we made them an ally of Iran. Mm-hmm. And of course, Russia would be providing aid to Iran. They've been on record saying we're providing aid to our ally for years now. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to tell them, no, you can't do that, but we can. No problem. We can kill you and through our proxy in Ukraine, and we can bomb the living tar out of your ally in Iran, but don't you dare do anything that would be in favor of your ally.
Right. Or there will be consequences. Have we not stepped? What are we holding back exactly?
What are we holding back exactly? In fact, what he just did this week is he undid the consequence which was embargoing the sale of gas and oil, of Russian gas and oil. And he's got rid of that. And in fact, even allowing Iran to sell the gas and oil now because he needs resupply, or the entire economy of the world collapses. So he's in a real pickle. Yeah. Of course, when oil went up, Putin is just sitting there laughing, saying, well, thank you very much.
Sure.
Things were a little tight here for a while, but they're not anymore. Right. And of course, the Europeans say, now, can we buy your oil and gas? And Putin said, what did you do to my Nord Stream pipeline? Didn't you blow it up? Or without America that blew it up? Maybe you want to fix that. And maybe we could then, send you some oil. But between now and then, God, we've got plenty of customers, and you're just not high on our list. So,
right.
With the straits closed, we've got too many people that want our oil that are nice to us. Why would we give it to you after all you've done to us?
I have a little y'all, I've got a little minor emergency upstairs with the dogs. I'm here all by myself. I'll be right back, okay?
Okay. All right. What do you got next there? Okay.
Are non-blondes?
Yeah. So, Carolyn Levitt, Miss, I wear my cross, and I had a child outside of marriage to a much older man, because I'm just fascinated by all this stuff, and I'm a fake Christian, but what the hell? It doesn't really matter. I'm working for a fake president anyway. Now, so she says, we understand your concern. I'm a compassionate girl, I'm a Christian. I understand. I feel your pain. But the gas prices, this is just a temporary disruption. No, the great and honorable Donald. Oh, no. Our great president, our dear Führer, our leader, he will rectify this situation. He's going to wipe out the rogue regime in Iran. Yeah. How's he going to do that, by the way? He's going to kill every Iranian? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See what happens? You kill 93 million people. You're going to kill every Iranian, because that's the only way you could do that. He's going to wipe them out. That's fantasy, of course. And the threats to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Is Iran threatening to shut down the Strait of Hormuz?
They are no longer threatening. It is a done deal.
It is a done deal. So why would she say the threats to shut down? It is absolutely shut down, unless Iran says, okay, you can come through.
Yeah.
But if they say you can't come through, I guess you could show some guts, and we could put Admiral Bone Spur on one of these boats after he buys them. Anyway, so he says that the threats to shut down the Strait of Hormuz underscore the need for President Trump to launch this operation in the first place. Now, how could you be that
That's
upside down?
Pauline logic, isn't it?
Oh my God! How could you? So the Strait of Hormuz was open. We started bombing the living crap out of Iran. They shut it, but them shutting it was justification for us doing the very thing that caused it to go from open to shut.
And they just shut it to American and Israeli and those tankers, Saudi, because India's still getting oil.
Well, that's not entirely true. They're allowing their allies, India gets along with everybody. Modi's a pretty crafty dude. They're allowing India. They're allowing China to get oil, and Iran is sending their own tankers through. And they've actually agreed that they would, for a toll, allow the other, what they call family dictatorships. Iran's very clever in the way that they present the rest of the Gulf nations. They say illegitimate family dictatorships, which describes all of them. They said the illegitimate family dictatorships can ship oil to under two conditions. They shut down all U.S. military bases in their country, and they sell all oil in the Chinese yuan and never in dollars. But if they sell oil in the Chinese yuan and shut down their U.S. bases, absolutely. Now, they're going to have their oil and gas facilities survive, and they will only survive if the United States and Israel stop bombing ours. Because if they bomb ours, we'll bomb theirs. Tit for tat, eye for eye. So that's the condition. It's not just, I read you said that it's open except to U.S. and Israel. No. First of all, the Israelis don't have tankers in this case. And the U.S. doesn't really either, by the way. We are the dumbest ever at this global hegemon thing, because all we do is take a tax by being the reserve currency. We actually don't have industry anymore, so we're not shipping anything, and we don't own the ships anymore. So we're the global hegemon only for the petrodollar. But the Iranian says, no, the issue is the American bases go, and you stop doing business with America, and you sell your oil and gas and currencies. The Chinese yuan is the one we're going to recommend, and never in dollars again. And you can pass.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole thing for KKK Barbie to say that
right.
that the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which was a consequence of America bombing Iran, was justification for America bombing Iran.
Right.
It's got to be so moronic that if you're a MAGA and this is your president and your spokesperson, you should check yourself in to an insane asylum so you don't hurt anybody.
Still.
Hope you solved your crisis.
Yes, it was a little touch and go with the dog, so it's very hot here today. No air conditioning.
This is the same thing. Make sense of this. They were going to block the Strait of Hormuz. So Trump had to start a war that blocked the Strait of Hormuz.
Perfect.
Hey, white coats.
I'm telling you that the job that we're going to, or the job we have now, the reason I've said, I don't really care about social media anymore. Well, other than we need a place to post programs like this. So YouTube matters, Rumble matters, those kind of places matter. But we're not trying to solicit somebody into the covenant now, because there's just nobody to solicit. The world is just way too stupid. I don't care if you're a Marxist, you're a MAGA, you're a Twistian, you're a Islam idiot, a Muslim moral. I don't care what flavor of stupid you have. Haredi, there's just not enough smart people in the world, thoughtful, open-minded, rational, informed people, that the message that we're conveying about Yahweh, his beloved son, Dowd, and the absolute obliteration of religion and of anti-Semitism. Today, you can't be popular, by the way, unless you're an anti-Semite. And so it's just, there is no hope for the world as it stands. And can you imagine how difficult the job's going to be for those two witnesses and the people that have to support them in that last 3.5 years? I mean, it's just going to be speaking to a brick wall. We'll do one more, and then we'll turn to Kirk's analysis here. What do we have on our last one? Oh yeah, I just here we are. So you've got the claim that 90% has been degraded in 3 hours of fire. So this has been Israel's claim. I think you up at the top. I think that's where it says that the comment on this that Israel has claimed that they have degraded 90% of Iran's capability of making missiles and drones. The United States says the same thing, and yet every night there's hours and hours of drones and missiles over Israel and over American military facilities, most of which have been destroyed. And so we have a clash here between fake and real. Yeah. And since Israel is not showing any, total news embargo, and the United States has a total news embargo on what's happened to their bases. So you can see in the satellite pictures that they're badly destroyed. I mean, they're in trouble. And you can't take Iran out. It's a country the size of Western Europe, and you can't invade it. Its natural defenses are too stout. Plus, they can muster a 2 million man army, and America couldn't project a 200,000 man force. And if you put 200,000 invaders against 2 million defenders, you'd have to be the other ratio to have the defenders lose. A defender is anywhere from 5-1 to 10-1, particularly in mountainous terrain, and particularly if it's a long supply line for the invader. And this couldn't be worse in terms of supply lines and literally no means of resupply. It's impossible. I mean, whoever you send into Iran, they're going to die. That's a suicide mission. And so this idea that we've degraded 90% of their capacity, it's very much like Trump said, we obliterated their nuclear program. They have no more nuclear program anymore. We obliterated it. Yeah, so much for that. You didn't even dust it. I mean, you didn't even shake it. And we said that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just
obliterated their navy. He kept saying they obliterated their navy, and yet somehow the Strait of Hormuz, which is water, is closed, and only,
Yeah, and what he misses is that we took out their flagship, which was doing a ceremony with I think in India, and it was their celebratory purpose. It wasn't there harming anybody. They were just celebrating an event in India and showing reciprocity to the Indians, which is supposed to be an ally of ours, and we blew it out of the water, killed a bunch of people, and we're under the mistake that those half a dozen surface vessels of any consequence, that they represent the Iranian Navy. They don't. What the Iranian Navy has is thousands, maybe tens of thousands of fast boats, and those fast boats lay mines. They fire torpedoes, they fire missiles, and they themselves are guided missiles that are going into the sides of vessels. Mm-hmm. And they're all in caves on the shoreline of the Persian Gulf, right around the Strait of Hormuz. And they are deployed out from underneath caves that are impervious to bombing and straight out into the Gulf. They do their thing, lay the mine, shoot the missile, fire the torpedo, or ram the boat. And there are thousands upon thousands of them. And we haven't wiped out a fraction of 1% of them. And that's what they're using. And even if we were to take out all of them, then they still have all of the missiles. And the missiles aren't all on the shore. They're inland too. And no, it's just all a lie. So my friend Kirk, I understand that you have done an analysis on the fall of empires. Yeah. Is that a correct assessment? You looked at ancient Rome and you looked at maybe the British Empire and came to the conclusion that that the fall of empires always follows the same path. Would that be somewhat accurate, my friend?
Well, that's where it started. Then I got to the Canada thing and the fall of ours.
Canada is an interesting aspect of that because Trump went initially, he insulted them and said, we want to make you the 51st state. And of course, you're going to make Canada, it would be 10 states probably, not one state. And the Canadians want no part of the United States. So you'd probably have 10% of Canadians saying, okay, that's a decent idea. And 90% say, are you out of your mind? No. We don't want to do that. And of course, he wasn't smart enough to realize that if Canadians got to vote and 90% of them are liberal, then he and his party would never win another election. Not that that matters because he's not a fan of it. Would he say, I don't know why we need elections anyway. But in any one of those criterion, he embarrassed them by saying, you're going to be the 51st state. Then he didn't realize the size of them. And I said, well, that would be maybe 10 plus states. And then he didn't. It's like when George Bush wanted to bring democracy to Iraq and he couldn't count and realized that 65% of the Iraqis were going to vote for the Shia mullahs with direct loyalty to Iran that were Iranians, and that it was just going to be Iran West. Yeah, it's just stupid. And then he decided, well, because they ran an ad that says I was a dummy, and I don't like ads that say I'm a dummy because I'm not really as stupid as I sound. And so he then decided, well, I'm going to tariff them. And not realizing that, oh, by the way, it's not the Canadians that will pay the tariffs. It's the Americans. You just taxed your own people, you idiot. And then he didn't realize that there's another little problem. And that is that the uranium that we use to fuel our nuclear reactors and our submarines and our aircraft carriers, guess where it all comes from? Canada. That fertilizer that we use to grow our crops, guess where about 90% of it comes from? That would be Canada. That oil that we use to supply all of our northern refineries, guess where it comes from?
4 million barrels a day.
Yeah, Canada. And so what did old Carney say? Carney is a pretty sharp dude, isn't he?
I'm impressed with Mr. Carney. I tell you.
Yeah. I wasn't initially, but boy, I'll tell you everything he says. Like when he gave that speech at Davos in Switzerland, and he went down point by point by point and said, the bottom line is that Trump is a disastrous person for the world. Everything he has done is wrong. He is a hideous tyrant. And the whole world needs to do what we did. Tell them to go shove it. And so when he said, we'll shut down trade with Canada. They need us much more than we need them. Guess what happened? And I said, okay, well, no fertilizer, no uranium, no oil. And then what did they do next, Kirk?
Well, they went over, I'll skip the notes and just go to the big party, big picture. He decided he needed a trading partner, so he went to China.
He went to China. And China, because America took Venezuela from China. Trump patted himself on the back for that one, didn't he? And so, and Venezuela, you got to go all the way around South America and those, the Drake Passage, and to bring the oil here. They just got much more convenient. Now all they have to go is to Vancouver and pick it up.
Right.
Because guess what? The Canadians have more oil, and it's better oil than was in Venezuela, and it's a lot more convenient. And so guess what? Our refineries are dry.
Yes.
And the Chinese are saying, thank you very much. That was really nice of you. Oh, by the way, we'll step in here for you, but you're going to do something for us. And do you know what the little deal was that they made with the Chinese?
Well, they changed. They first of all, they bought in. They allowed a lot more electric cars in, which are very wonderful cars. I think it's 40,
and that was the 45,000 electric vehicles a year. With the minimal duties, where BYD and other electric cars in the United States are dutied at 100%. And the reason their duty is 100%, if they weren't dutied, Tesla wouldn't exist. Yeah. Tesla exists because of duty protection. That's why Musk, when he turned on Trump after Trump turned on him, realized I better go brown nose him again because I've got no business. 90% of my business in SpaceX is U.S. government. 90% of my business and Starlink is the U.S. government. And my biggest customer on my AI is the U.S. government. And Tesla doesn't exist without the U.S. government. I probably better resolve that little problem because he's ruthless. Well, the fact is that it's 100% duty and embargoes and everything else. But the Chinese EVs are vastly superior,
yes,
vastly better appointed, and a third the price.
Yeah. Tariff's only 6% to Canada, so that's nothing. They can absorb that.
Yes.
So the dealers are
6% duty on a product that's already superior by 50, 60, 70%, maybe 100% in quality, and it's anywhere from a third to half the price with a 6% duty. It's meaningless. And 6% duty is kind of paperwork stuff.
No.
So, that was screw you. By the way, Europe did the same thing.
Yeah.
Europe went to China as well. China is the winner in everything that Trump is doing. But the reason that what the oligarchs in America really want, Kirk, with the China, is that America now realizes that they can't beat China economically. China is the industrial engine of the world, and it owns us economically. It's way too late to do anything economically. And they know they can't threaten China militarily. China produces 300 times the tonnage in ships, both maritime commercial and also warships. 300 times what America does. And it takes America 15 to 20 years to bring an aircraft carrier online, and then the toilets don't work and the laundry doesn't work. Right. And the Chinese can bring 3 a year if they wanted to, and all the support for them. So America can't go to war with China, and it can't beat China militarily. So the only thing they could do to try to thwart China, and the only reason they want to thwart China, the Chinese aren't bad. I mean, but 50 years ago, I went into China. I was one of the first Americans into China when Nixon lifted the travel ban. The Chinese are wonderful people. I built factories in China. Love the Chinese people. They're very decent, hardworking, smart people. I never did a deal with the Chinese that they didn't honor. But we make both the Russians and the Chinese into the boogeymen in our media because it's good for the oligarchs. And so here we are, and you've got only one thing that the oligarchs think they have as a wedge against Russia and China, and particularly now China, which is at this point, even though China is by far the world leader now in nuclear power generation, they're overwhelmingly the world's leader in solar power generation. They are overwhelming the world's leader in coal transition to both power and to usable fuels. Overwhelming. I mean, we're like 5 to 10 times the next country in terms of their proficiency in these things. And they've invested heavily in pipelines from Russia for fuel. And they have the Belt and Road Initiative that takes all transportation and trade over land as opposed to over sea, because the United States has only one way to impose its hegemon and its petrodollar and trade restrictions, and that's by its Navy. Mm-hmm. And they not only have a Navy that would beat America's Navy, they don't need to even compete with it because they have overland routes. And so there's about another 3 to 4 years for China to be completely and totally independent of any maritime purchase of oil or gas. And if America does not stop China for the boogeyman, principle here, and for the oligarchs that want to carve it up and own its resources, within the next 3 years, then nothing can be done. And so that's why Venezuela, that's why he wanted to go after Panama. That's why the war is actually being fought in Iran. That's why we're trying to destroy Russia, because Russia is their principal supplier.
Okay.
So when you began to do this, we want to start on Carney. Go ahead, and what other things did you find about that Carney did? Because Carney's background, he was a banker, a world banker.
Well, he was a big deal banker. He started in like 14 years in Goldman Sachs, so he got the inside scoop there. And then he went to into the banking business. He wound up in London. He's the one that was the head of the London Bank, National Bank or Federal Bank, what we call the Fed. And he controlled that and got him through the Brexit exit. They separate themselves from Europe. So he knows the ins and outs of how things work more than anyone probably anyone head. I don't know too many that got all this stuff going on.
So, and I didn't know that. So Carney played a significant role in Brexit, such that that the euro and the pound were disjoined in such a way that England could survive having its pound and having its banks disjoined from Europe, which was a miracle because of the relative size of the UK versus the rest of the European Union. So he was a significant contributor to that.
Oh, he was the head of the Bank of England.
Oh wow!
And then
so
during that whole period,
serious credential.
Yeah, serious credential. Then he went back to his home in Canada and became the head of the Bank of Canada. So he knows the ins and outs. He knows everything that we trade, how we trade. He knows where our vulnerabilities are. He knows exactly what we are and what we're doing. And then Trump did a couple of lousy things to him, besides just insulting and everything. It was very distant. That pissed him off. But prior to that, he spent a whole year planning what these moves that he was going to make. When he did that, finally just couldn't take it anymore, and when the opportunity came up, he struck.
Yeah. And he finally announced it at Davos. He announced his plan, and Trump, of course, lashed out at him with ad hominem attacks, not irrational undermining of anything he had to say. But since that time, evidently Trump's advisors say, "Hey, you want to shut up?" He won.
Yeah.
You don't have any wiggle room. In fact, now even the U.S. Supreme Court says your tariffs were unconstitutional. You have to not only remove them, but you have to pay back the money you took from Americans. But the damage is already done. It can't be undone. It will never be undone.
But here's one of the killers that I thought shows you the difference between a man who has a brain and our president. Trump froze $89 billion of Canadian bank accounts, and he used the Emergency Economic Powers Act. So he did it all. Same thing as if there were way they froze Russia's money, the way they froze Iran's money.
300 billion in terms of Russia. Yeah.
This is 89 billion on this one. And then, unbeknownst to him, I'm going to read a little bit so I get all the facts right. Unbeknownst to Trump and his government, apparently, the Prime Minister Carney planned to prepare this emergency weeks ahead, and he removed 77 million out of that 89 million back to Canada. America said no. They left the 12 billion because that was too flaky to put all the flags up.
Yeah, bait.
So what he did then, after they started bragging about it, and they found out it's only 12 billion left in there, he, being Carney, he did the same thing with American stuff, and it turned $43 billion of American accounts in Canada. To one. Yeah. That's 220 billion versus 12 billion.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
You have to add back in the 77 million they already snuck out. And then you're at 43 American now.
15 to 1.
15 to 1, yeah. So then the next day he announced to the world that now this is when he went viral.
Well, that's the art of being played. Is suppose the art of the deal? That's the art of being played.
Yeah, this is the real art of the deal. So he went and announced to the world. Now he's got everybody's ear because they know who he is.
Oh, of course. Yeah, and he's the man that stood up to Trump and looked Trump straight in the eye and said, "You are a con man, and we're going to best you, and the whole world needs to do what I'm doing and pay attention to what I'm doing." And he was the one man with the courage to stand up to him.
Yeah. And then the next day, then he announced it to the world and went public with it. And he said, your money, he's talking now to the whole financial world that'll listen. He said, your money is not an investment in America. It's a hostage for the U.S.
Yeah.
Correct. And he said, so move it immediately. And quite frankly, they can trace about the Norway, the Saudi Arabians, the Singapore, the European Central Bank, they came about 2.3 trillion as we speak.
And China and Japan. Japan was the largest holder. China and then Saudi Arabia were the big three. All three have not recycled. When a bond comes due in the past, they roll them over. Yeah, none of those countries have rolled over anything. And so every time something comes due, because none of those countries want to cause the United States to go into economic collapse. It's just too shocking for the world. They don't want. That's why China says, you really got to stop this war, because this war is going to cause America to go into economic collapse. They don't actually want America to go into economic collapse. It's too big a shock for the world. And too many people will pay too horrific a price. The whole world goes into 1929 type of depression or worse if this happens. So the Chinese are actually trying to encourage not to happen. So and the European Union is doing the same thing, and Japan is doing the same thing, and Saudi Arabia is doing the same thing. So what they're doing is they're not rolling over any of their treasury bond purchases, and they're not buying anything new, such that China's holdings have fallen about 40% over these last year or so. Japan's have fallen appreciably. Europe's have fallen 25%. And Saudi Arabia's have done the same. And they're all buying gold, which is why the price of gold went over $5,000 an ounce. And they're all buying into the BRICS transfer system because they know that's the future. So when America undermined the petrodollar by attacking Iran, Trump just cut off his own head, America's head. There was nothing left to salvage America. And this all got put into place actually before Trump. It was put into place by Biden. When Biden made the decision to confiscate $300 billion in sovereign Russian assets, and the whole world took notice and said, America is, and the dollar is not a safe haven, it's a weapon. And we did the same thing with Iran, and when we did the same thing with Venezuela. And so the world woke up and said, no, the dollar is no longer safe. It is no longer a currency that we should be holding as a reserve currency. We need to de-dollarize our economies. And it was the confiscation of Russia's sovereign assets, $300 billion of them, that turned the whole world against America. It was one of the dumbest things that comatose Biden could ever have done, and the sanctions that followed, and the world turned against America. And the Iran war now is the devastating and unresolvable crime against the dollar. And see, what happens, and Carney figured this out, you guys probably know this, that when a nation is $39 trillion in debt, and no nation ever been anywhere near that kind of debt, but $39 trillion in debt. And the debt is the number one item on as an expensive government, even at artificially low, ridiculously low interest rates. A payment on debt is greater than the payment even on the cost of the military. And it's about to double and triple. Yeah. So when a nation gets to the point that payment on the money they've already spent that they did not make it is the number one item on their balance sheet, then they've reached a point where there's only two options. Option one is to default and say the debt can never be repaid, and so we're simply defaulting on the debt. Means the dollar is gone. The dollar has zero value at that point. You have to come up with a different currency and reset everything. And every American loses their entire savings. And the world economies collapse. The American economy collapses. It's utter disaster if they declare default. So the thing that every country like Rome and the UK, when the UK was the hegemon of the world, have done is Germany did this as well, is that you print money, you create money out of nothing. America calls it quantitative easing. And you pay your debt out of money that you created, that all you did was inflate the money supply. Well, if you inflate the money supply, what you do is you make every dollar worth less. That's why inflation isn't prices going up, it's the dollar going down in value. Yeah, in value. So you do that, and it always ends up in hyperinflation, and it's a matter of years before the economy is completely destroyed and the currency is completely destroyed. But you can prolong it that way. Now, America had the ability to do something that few countries have done previously, but is to hide the fact that it was bankrupt. And we hid the fact we were bankrupt, that when we created the illusion of money to pay our debt, we had people that were willing to buy those dollars. And they needed the dollars because the dollar was the reserve currency, and it was reserve currency because the deal we made with the Muslims and the Arab states to sell gas and oil only in dollar denominations, so that our deficit spending would have a means of hiding the fact that we were creating the illusion we were not bankrupt. And it's the only thing that does that. Otherwise, runaway inflation, we would have inflation at 50% a year right now. And our debt service would be not $1 trillion. Our debt service would be $5-6 trillion a year. And so what we did is we promised those nations that we would protect them. We would supply all these bases and all of these fancy machines that would protect them and keep them safe. Well, with the Iran war, they were all destroyed, and America abandoned those bases. And so now all of those countries that were part of the petrodollar system realized that America was not an asset, it was a liability. Yeah. And so none of them want to continue with the petrodollar system or continue with those bases, because the deal they made, America did not honor. And without the petrodollar, there is no way of hiding the fact that America is spending money by creating the illusion of money to finance its debt and buy things. You know, America has this appetite to buy things that they can't pay for. And so with the invasion of Iran, it was the final straw. The petrodollar is done. And whether it unwinds over 1 year or 5 years, that's the window that America has to survive. It will not survive past 5 years and may not survive past 2 or 3, but that's what we have done to ourselves. And MAGAs have cheered it on. And the Democrats haven't been smart enough, because they know nothing about economics as Marxists, to stand in the way of it. Yeah. And the people that own the way we communicate, the oligarchs, are making a fortune over it. Mm-hmm. But that is the essence of what Carney figured out. It's the essence of what Iran figured out. They said, you want to continue to war with us? That's fine. We'll just destroy the dollar. It wasn't our choice. We didn't want to destroy America, but we don't have to fire anything at America to completely destroy America. And they know it. Yeah.
You know, it's two other factors they're doing, and just to throw into in the repertoire of stuff. You know, the bank assets, Trump's going to freeze all the bank assets of the Canadian banks over here. Can't do that because TD and RBC and all, they're holding billions and billions of dollars of American money. Mm-hmm. And the reason they're the ones that people have set up the accounts in order, like, here's the best example I could find was Walmart Canada. And then they have the banks over there. They have to send money and pay all the payroll and and travel back and forth, pay the invoices, everything. All of that is being done by Canadian banks to service the banks over there, and so that they can service all the accounts which all the American companies have to deal with. If you take that away, there is a collapse like nobody's business way early. So, and they know that, and he knew that. So I was going.
Do you think that Canada's America? Do you think Canada's America's largest trading partner?
Well, it should be.
I mean, it should be. Or should we think China is? I mean, he's always attacking China and unfair practices. Who's America's largest trading partner?
It's got to be our border up north. We go.
Yeah, it's Canada. It was. Yeah. It probably won't be anymore.
No, I tell you.
Yeah. And you know who's a surprise up there in the top 5? There's 2 countries that are really a surprise in the top 5. Mexico is in the top 5. Well, yeah. It's not just because of proximity, but all the NAFTA agreements that Trump overturned that were so favorable for both nations. Duty free. No. But now the fact is, the Mexicans managed to find all manners way of cheating on them, and the Mexicans really did bend all of that to their favor and the detriment of Mexican citizens. But the other one is Vietnam. Vietnam's the top 5.
Because you've got Nike and all those others.
It's just not Nike, but it's clothing and China is a low-cost producer, not because of cheap labor. Vietnam is a low-cost producer, as is Bangladesh, because of cheap labor. That's not the case in China. China is a low-cost producer because of supply chain management and automation. I know the BYD factories. You look at them. There are huge cities of people that work in them, those lines are more robotic than our Tesla's lines.
Well, there's one more error in your quiver here. You've got courtesy of Canada. They have, I grew up in Australia, and my two sisters live there, and I know how they think and so forth. And I know a lot about Australia. This guy has got everything as far as minerals go. They even found diamonds. The beer came over and asked them, please don't sell these things on the market at any price other than this. They signed an agreement and all that sort of stuff. They got oil, they've got, you name it, but not a lot of oil. They have everything. If you add Canada and Australia together, they produce, God, so many minerals and things that are used in all the electronics and stuff. It's amazing how big a conglomerate that would be. And guess where Mr. Carney is heading off to next week?
Australia.
He's going to speak to Canberra's Parliament next week. And between the banking ties of the City of London, you have Canada, you have this. Canada's got trading partners all over. There's 56 trading partners already available to the Commonwealth nation. The little stepchild he used to kick around, he's got some teeth.
And guess where Australia was within the last few months with Z in China.
Oh yeah. Well, they do a lot of stuff with China and have for a number of years. But another factor is, if Australia, I grew up in Sydney. Every time you go down to Sydney, which I love the harbor, I live right on it, see all the American ships. They've been there since the World War II. And guess what? They told them they're going to tell them to get out. Then the whole Southern Hemisphere, Pacific,
no American bases.
They're dark. They can't.
Because the Philippines has already told us to get out of Subic Bay, and Australia's going to tell us to get out, and just pretty soon Taiwan won't be an independent country, and we're being booted out of the Middle East. Not looking good for America.
No, I smiled a little bit because I was proud of him doing what he did, standing up. But the second thing is, if anyone thinks that what we are talking about in these prophecies is not going to come true, or there's something that can kick the can down the road, all this is there. We just get into detail.
Yeah, the only prophecies about our United States is that the corporeal manifestation of Satan that betrays Israel, called Rahab, will be an American president. He's Donald Trump, and that America is going to be destroyed. But God's only interest in America is in its destructive power relative to Israel, because it betrays Israel in the end. He says that the big talker will make all sorts of promises, but when it comes push to shove, he's going to abandon Israel. That's what God says. He told his people bluntly he was going to do that. But what we care about is Israel. And we don't care about the Israel government, don't care about the IDF, don't care about any of their political parties, most certainly don't care about Judaism. We're opposed to all of those things. But the land of Israel and Israelis and Yehudim, we care deeply about, and God does. And so almost all the prophecies are about God's people and only transcend beyond them if those people are interacting in a positive or negative way, 99.9% of the time negatively, against Israel. And so what Israel needs to know is the prophecies that exist about them, starting 60 days from now, are they going to enter the worst time of trouble in their history, far worse than the Holocaust, far worse than what happened under the 3 Roman assaults, far worse than Greece when Epiphanes was so sacrilegious in Israel. It'll be the single worst time, worse than the Shettles, worse than the pogroms, and literally worse than the Holocaust. They're going to experience 1,000 times Alaska flood on October 7th, 23. And that's what the prophets say. That's what's going to happen. 2 out of every 3 Jews are going to die. That'll be 10 million Jews are going to die, almost twice the Holocaust number over the next 7 years. We don't want that to happen. I'm not encouraging that to happen, trying to stop that from happening. We can't stop it from happening, but we certainly can encourage people to protect themselves. I'm getting the hurry up from the keeper of the cables, because it is 5:09 and we start our family hour show.
Turn
here.
and burn.
Yeah, turn and burn, baby. We hot sheet them here. You know,
Okay.
we're like a submarine, man. We hot sheet them, but. God may not pick people that you think, well, that's really tall, dark, and handsome, that dude, or he's super articulate. But he picks them that are devoted. they will play right to the bitter end. That's why he chooses his people. But what Israel has done to itself when they were literally played into the destruction of Gaza. I mean, the entire purpose of October 7th was to taunt Israel to do what it did in Gaza. When Netanyahu destroyed Gaza, he turned the entire world on Israel. There isn't anybody in Israel, I mean, anyone you can talk to in the world now that is a supporter of Israel, unless they're a MAGA wacko. And as soon as Trump turns on Israel, which is going to happen very shortly. In fact, he wrote a really nasty post against Israel just 2 days ago. When he does that, when he's going to do Neville Chamberlain, he's going to trade the heart of Israel for the petrodollar, not for peace in our time, but it'll be he'll call it peace in our time, but it'll be for the petrodollar, under the moniker peace for our time. But he's going to do that to prolong the petrodollar another couple of years. And what it says is that Israel has set itself up to be isolated by the world, be hated by the world. Anti-Semitism now is it's double as bad as it was a year ago. And a year ago, it was 2 times worse worldwide than it even was in Europe during the build-up to World War II. There's nothing like it now. You go on social media and you just need a shower after watching any of the posts, because it's everybody that's popular hates Israel. So Israel's in a really bad spot. They're isolated, hated, demonized, and God knows that the enemies around them, particularly now Iran, and all of these other Arab countries, they're going to all recognize that it was Israel that they can blame for what's happening to them now. And they're going to see to it that Israel is bludgeoned badly. And so it's going to be rough. And we've done everything we could. I begged Israel for the last year and a half, 2 years, to recognize that Donald Trump is the great betrayer, and that being a vassal to the United States is going to play very poorly. And yes, Iran was trying to build a nuclear bomb, and will have one now for certain. Maybe already has one. But what you're doing to Iran, there's a 0% possibility it's going to work, and it's going to make life in Israel miserable. Destroying Gaza, I understand your rage, but it was a terrible mistake.
They told him what to do. You wrote the letter.
Yes, I did. It was a 100-page letter that I wrote the morning of and into the 2 or 3 days following October 7th of 23. I told them, these are the things you're going to do. And I was right about every one of them. And this is going to be the consequence of those things. It's going to be devastating. And I was right about every one of them. And I said, these are the 5 things you should do instead. And they did none of them. And I said, you will do none of them. So you read that letter again.
Yeah, you ought to read it again, because I just reread it recently, and it's like check mark. Yep.
Yeah.
Over and over.
What book is it in?
It's in the opening chapter, not opening chapter, but opening volume of Goddamn Religion, called At War with Religion. It used to be a resource, and I had that letter posted. I'll have it posted again on resources. By the way, we'll make another announcement, but the timeline has been hugely improved. I spent 4 days. I rewrote all of the copy for the timeline. It's really now an interesting read all the way through. The team has, thank you, Kevin, for gotten all that posted. And it's really well done. We need another 50, 75 pictures. And we get those pictures in, another 50, 75 pictures. I think we're going to have something really extraordinary. And I'm trying to work with Joe and Leah now on getting Yahweh's name back on the header of the site. They came up with a compromise based on what I asked for as a temporary stand-in. But I want Yahweh's name to be as contemporary as the menorah. And now I realize why he said, he didn't tell me why he wanted the menorah, other than he says that's my sign. And the Lion of Judah is not my sign. And it's not Dowd's sign either. Dowd is the lamb. It's not the Lion of Judah. I don't want that to be the symbol anymore. I want my menorah to be the symbol. Come to find out, that's why I renamed the book I'm writing right now. God's all in with two mayor luminaries, and they are that menorah. That menorah is them. Them is it's all they are the guys that fulfill the 7 Moed Mikre, and God's all in with them. And that's why he wanted to go to that sign. But we're going to have that in the middle of the O in Yahweh's name, have a silver ring around it, put the Yah on one side, the Wah on the other. And then we're getting rid of, some places we have 4 lines of links. We're going to have 2 on the homepage and 3 on some of these others by blending things together. Just like we took the translations, and then there's a sublink on that page to the glossary, and then one to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Those things relate to one another, comes up with the translations, which is the most important, then has the 2 others that are just a click away. We're going to do the same thing with like Vlog will have the shorts. The music will have the invites, or vice versa. The blog will have our chat feature when we have it. So we're going to combine things that are natural fits, so that I think we're going to have 9 top links, and then we'll have about 20 direct links at the footer for people to go directly to things. But those 9 will take us to everything that we need to navigate this site. And so we're working on that to make it better. But at this point, that website is so far beyond any other website and is so spectacular with its 35 books, the way it presents the books and this vlog and the shorts. I just think the shorts are such a powerful tool, and this designates them and brings them out special. And the way that it presents the vlog, and now the way we're presenting the blog, which is the only purpose of Facebook now, is I use it as the feed for that blog. It's an auto feed into it. I'm just so proud of what the team has done to build that website, which will be our home. And all we need to do is get the chat feature up on it, so that we don't have to communicate using social media other than to comment on these videos as they're playing in places like YouTube. But otherwise, we're communicating with one another and building each other up and teaching one another. And doing things like what you said. Here's the one other time that Adam Nye is used is with Esau, and we have the connection with Esau being the man from Edom and the reconciliation of the relationship. That's something would have been a marvelous thing to post and to be able to interact with. And so we need the chat feature up on the site. We get that, and then we have created Yahweh's home between now and the time that Yahweh reestablished his home on Mount Moriah. And even then, there needs to be a home for Yahweh's family for teaching and communication for the 1,000 years that follow. And this is it. When Elia and I are out there talking about, this is what you need to read, this is what you need to know, we're not going to tell you the whole story. We're going to say, I'm going to give you enough information that you go to yada.com. And you need to spend your time reading there. And once you come up to speed, then you need to make an intelligence.
You're still going to read the books.
You're still going to read the book, baby. You know, there's no substitution for reading the books. And boy, I tell you what, this last one, it's so extraordinary what we're learning, and particularly now this understanding of how God was able to keep His plan on track and His people on track by inserting people that met the criterion that He was setting for us. That we're observant, that we are thoughtful, that we are responsive, and that we are reliable. And when He comes across a soul that meets that check mark, He reuses them. And it's the only way that God can be true to His commitments and His nature, and keep His people and plan on track, because it doesn't get more important than what happened with Dowd when Dowd fell off the rails. And so we know when he did it and why he did it and through whom he did it. And it's such a profoundly important insight. And it's going to be a huge part of what we're talking about as we go forward. Well, Richard is going to come over and clobber me on the head if we don't Thank you. I apologize if I spoke over some of your thunder.
I don't know. The essence of it was there. That's fine.
But boy, you got a lot of it out. And the good news is that my understanding of what you had come up with runs deep, and what you were communicating to us is essential. I mean, it is the very lifeblood of America, which is now Israel's only pretense of an ally. And Carney has shown that the king ain't wearing no clothes. Yeah, and it's over for America, and there's no return. It wouldn't matter if we have midterms. It won't matter if we have another election in America. It wouldn't matter what the resolution is of the Iran war. It doesn't matter what America does from this point. It's over. The cards have all been played, and America's lost, and it has no one but itself to blame. And Israel has played even a more egregious and losing hand, and continues to play it. If Israel doesn't replace Netanyahu and that government, and soon, the price is going to be hellacious. And if it's going to be hellacious, even if they replace him, because Israel has already done too much damage to itself. We'll see you guys in another
40 minutes.
40 minutes. Shabbat
Get
shalom.
housekeeping in.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.